Good day traders, this is Stefanos on behalf of Tixee, and in today's webinar we'll be giving an outlook of the market for the week of the 29th of August until the 2nd of September. Now, looking at some of the highlights for next week, in the stocks front we'll have two stocks releasing their earnings reports, namely Hewlett-Packard Incorporated and Hewlett-Packard Enterprises. On the Forex front, it's set out to be a blockbuster week with inflation reports from key members of the Eurozone, as well as the all-important NFP report from the US on Friday. But first, a disclaimer. As always, please note that all of the ideas discussed in the webinar are my own opinions and do not make up for any form of investment, trading advice, neither any recommendations to buy or sell. You should always do your own research and due diligence before buying or selling any securities, financial products, or instruments, and whether you use any kind of trading strategies. Any information that relates to past performance is not indicative of future results. So, kicking things off with stocks, we have both Hewlett-Packard entities, which are HP Incorporated and HP Enterprise, reporting their figures for next week. We're slowly drawing to a close with regards to the earnings, the Q2 earnings period. But still there's quite a number of stocks releasing their earnings. This is the earnings calendar I've been using all throughout this earnings season. So if in case you missed or in case you're tuning in towards the very end of it, you can of course bookmark it if you want, if you'd like to use it for the next one, because there's gonna be another two for the remainder of the year as well. So yeah, it's definitely a good way to prepare ahead of it, I would say. Before we start getting the releases for the next one. Now the one I'm using is, as you can see at the top, the one from Market Insider. Again, it's a very simple UI with no cluttering, no articles or text you don't really need, no ads or anything, and it's pretty much everything you need. So you can see here, you can choose the filters as to which kind of day or date you want to be looking at. So for this webinar, we'll be looking at next week, and there's also a little box right here which is indicating the number of stocks that are going to be releasing their earnings reports over a particular period. So for this one, we're going to be looking at large cap, and essentially this is how I came and found Hewlett-Packard. You can also do Command F if you want, if you're on Mac, or Control F. And if you just type in the ticker, you're going to be able to see them there. And once I see the actual stocks that I'm interested in, you can just navigate to Tixee's website. You can go to Markets at the top here, then select Stocks. And you can pretty much do the same thing, which is, again, you can hit Command F or Control F. And it's already pre-selected. And you can see them both down here as well. So yeah, these are the ones that are going to be releasing their earnings for next week. Now, for now, as you saw from earnings from Markets Insider calendar, they're set out to release the figure. Both of them is going to be on the 30th of August. What we still don't know is the exact timing, whether it's going to be in the pre-market hours or after the market close, which is obviously something that's very crucial, as we've been mentioning throughout the past videos where we've been covering the earnings reports. Because if it's in the pre-market hours, then you can expect the impact of the report to be seen on the same day. Whereas if it's in the after hours, so after the market close, then the impact is likely going to be seen with the next day with the open. So I would say if you're interested in looking or trading those stocks or their earnings report specifically, then closer to the day of the 30th, we should be getting further updates as to when the exact timing of the report is going to be released as well. So you can just monitor it for now in case that's the one you want to look at. If there's other ones that obviously you can do the same as well. Now, as far as the earnings season itself, the official end date for the Q2 earnings season is the 31st of August, so next week. But like we said, we might still get the odd ones out who still get to report the figures a little outside of this period. So you can still be on the lookout for any names that we're going to be covering in the following weeks. But as you can see, if you're tuned in since the beginning, you'd see we had weeks where we had more than 5,000 stocks reporting their figures. But right now we're pretty much at half of that, at 2,500 rather. But yeah, this is with regards to the earnings calendar and then the stocks for next week. For now, we're going to move on to the other calendar, which on this occasion is going to be the economic one. So this one you can very easily find from tixee's website. If you just go towards the very top here, and you can just go to News and Analysis, and this is where you can find the economic calendar. And just like the other one, you have a bunch of filters that you can use here to readjust the data. So we set it for next week, medium and high impact events. And the other key part is to make note of the time zone here, because you want to adjust it to the one that you're in, because that's directly going to reflect the timings that you can see for each report here as well. Now, as we mentioned during the intro, the key event for next week is of course going to be the NFP report, as it usually takes place on the first Friday of each month. So on this occasion, again, yeah, it's going to be on Friday. But aside from that, we're also going to be having inflation reports across different countries within the Eurozone, and even more, which we're basically going to be covering now. So as you can see from the calendar itself, let me just scroll a little further down and just keep it here. So for Monday, you can see we have retail sales figures from Australia at 2:30 a.m. Always make note of this little tooltip here, because it gives you a good indication as to the volatility you can expect in the hours following the release of the report. So yeah, we're going to have retail sales figures from Australia, which is then going to be followed by the trade balance figures from Turkey at 8 a.m. UK. And that pretty much wraps up Monday. Then moving on to Tuesday, we'll have unemployment figures from Japan early in the morning, as well as building permits from Australia, which is going to be the first high impact event of the week as well. Again, you can see we're getting quite a few pips of volatility, so it's definitely a range that a trader could work off of for sure. And then we kick off with inflation reports. So we're going to get the one from Spain at 8 a.m. And then we have economic sentiment figures from the Eurozone. And then we get a further inflation report, this time from Belgium, which happens to be labeled as a high impact event as well. We'll have unemployment figures from Mexico, if you're into trading the exotic pairs, for example. Then the next inflation report, as you can see, we're already quite strong with those, in particular from the Eurozone. So this time it's going to be from Germany. And again, it's labeled as a high impact event again. And then we're going to get the first hint or clue of jobs data from the US. That's going to be at 3 in the afternoon. And then we're going to finish the day with building permits figure from New Zealand at 11:45. So you can see on Tuesday alone, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 high impact events alone on Tuesday. So it's going to be quite a volatile day just by looking at these kind of events we're going to be getting. Then moving on to, let me just scroll higher. And then moving on to Wednesday, we have manufacturing data from China in the early morning hours, and then consumer confidence figures from Japan. Then picking up from the inflation reports from Eurozone, we'll have at 7:45 inflation data from France, which is going to be closely followed, or actually it's going to be at the same time. They're also going to be having the GDP figures being released as well. These events are of course high impact, with this one being medium one. We're also going to get GDP data from Turkey at 8 a.m. Again, that's the other high impact event. We'll have unemployment data from Germany. Again, we're still in the regular EU session. We still haven't gone towards lunchtime. Then again, in the morning hours, we'll have inflation data from Italy, and then the generic inflation figure from the Eurozone as a whole. And again, both of these events are, as you can see, labeled as high impact events. Then moving on to Thursday, which just by the number of events, you may have guessed that it's going to be the quieter day throughout the week, as we're pretty much going to be getting manufacturing data from the US as the one and only high impact event of the day. And then moving on to Friday, and probably the day most traders are waiting for. So at midnight, we can have inflation figures from South Korea. Then in the regular EU session, we have trade balance from Germany, followed by inflation data from Turkey, which is then followed by inflation data from Cyprus as well. And then towards midday, the event everybody's probably waiting for, we're going to get the NFP report and unemployment data from the US at 1:30 to pretty much wrap up the day and the week as well. So as you can see, Friday as well, we'll have 6 high impact events. So I think it was even more, because Tuesday we said that we had 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, Friday is going to be the one with the most high impact events, which naturally is also the day that we're gonna get the NFP report. So yeah, a pretty active week. Since we're on the topic of the economic calendar, on Wednesday we're gonna get the usual oil inventory report. Is it Wednesday or is it gonna be Thursday because of the... Let me just switch onto a different calendar. Let's see. So yeah, it's still going to be on Wednesday. That's where we're gonna get the oil inventory report, which again is the usual one. But aside from that report, when it comes to oil and gold specifically as well, I would say it'd be worth watching the NFP report, even if you're not really interested in trading any of the Forex pairs, because obviously the NFP report is not just gonna impact or influence the Forex market, but it's going to probably spill over into other markets as well, such as the commodity and equity markets as well. So definitely we'll be on the lookout for that one. And lastly, we're going to be looking at cryptos and Bitcoin specifically. So let me just pull up the charts. I mean, the focus for next week, I would expect that it's probably going to be towards Forex pairs, but obviously we have the avid crypto traders as well, so we're going to be closely monitoring Bitcoin as well. As you can see from last week, we did make this strong movement towards the downside, but again, it doesn't seem like it was the catalyst for prices to carry on moving lower, as we can see, because I mean, we haven't retraced back a lot from that move. We can see throughout the course of this week, I mean, there's still until Sunday, of course, so a few days left, but still it hasn't recovered much from that drop. So if this is what's going to carry on until the end of the week, then we could get the other strong leg again towards the downside. But again, that depends as to how things are going to unfold from Monday onwards. If we're looking just at some of the indicators, we can see that the 8 and 21 period EMAs, they're both pointing towards the downside. The crossover is bearish itself as well. And if we also look, let's just say if we put the RSI, as you can see, still well below the 50-point mark. Of course, it did recover from being below the 30-point mark, but again here it's pretty much still all up for grabs, so we could still get we could still get further pushes towards the downside from this point. But again, like we said, it just depends how things are going to unravel from next week. We have marked down these zones here that are quite significant because we have seen some pretty strong rejections or even bounces from these regions. So yeah, we're gonna keep it on watch and see what prices decide to do next week as well. Yeah, there you have it as far as the outlook for next week markets. I hope you enjoyed it and you found it useful, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, trade safe.